Welcome back. It's your boy I Read Reddit back at it again with some more Entitled Parents tomfoolery. Now today's stories are going to be extra spicy, so throw a shrimp on the barbie and sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride, fellas and Sheilas. I hope you love these ones. Our first two stories today come from the user ExplodingShowtunes, and the title of this one is Entitled Parent Uses My Mum as a Free Babysitter, then Beats Her Up at School for Making Fun of Me. Okay, so this is my fiance's story. I've had his mum and dad confirm it was real, and I'll do my best to retell it here from what they told me, and I hope you enjoy. Now, introducing our cast. Bean is my fiance, as a little first grade bean. M, his kick-butt mum. Entitled mother, you know who they are. And entitled kid is the entitled mother's crotch fruit. So, when Bean was in first grade, the entitled mother would send her entitled kid to Bean's house often without confirming it would be okay with the mother first. He would be there until 9 to 10 at night, every time he was over, well past bedtime for a first grader. My mum would have to call the mother just to come and get her kid, and they just lived down the street, and she was actually home all day, so they were just using my mother as a free babysitter so she wouldn't have to deal with him. Bean and the entitled kid would play and carry on like kids normally would, but the entitled kid was incredibly aggressive. Then, when it came to school, he would make fun of Bean and act like he was the black sheep and single him out and tell him he wasn't allowed to hang out with him, and would proceed to play with him after school. The entitled mother was no better on school grounds, as she and her posse would make fun of many kids when dropping off or picking up their own kids from school, calling some of them the R-word, idiots, and Bean remembers one said that one looked like a Mongol. The school didn't do anything to stop this, and none of the parents wanted anything to do with it, or were too scared to do anything about it. One day when dropping off Bean at school, the entitled mother and her posse decided today was the day to pick on him. According to Bean's mother, they were calling him fat and stupid, and said that the mother was a bad parent for it. Oh, the mother overheard this, and she had had enough. The mother waited until almost all the kids were inside, but not before Bean was, as she confronted the entitled mother and said, "Listen here, you jerk! I'm gonna punch you, and I'm gonna punch you hard!" This is Bean's newfie mother, one of the nicest people I've ever met, who has gone full mama bear rage mode, and as she said she would, punched the entitled mother in the face. They both proceeded to fight on the ground in a bare-knuckle brawl, complete with scratching, biting, hair pulling, you know, all the moves you'd see on ESPN or your local playground. The principal eventually came out, broke it up, and the police were called. The mother and the entitled mother were escorted off of school property and told to go home. Later that night, the cops showed up at Bean and the mother's house. They asked questions about what happened and, of course, the mother told them all about how they were harassing all the kids on school property, and since the school wasn't doing anything, she decided to defend her child. The cops left without harassing her, but in the next couple of days, she had a summons to court because the entitled mother decided to press charges. The mother never bothered going as she knew she was in the right, and, surprisingly, never had to pay any charges. Parents who saw or heard about what had happened congratulated her and said that they were glad someone finally stood up to the entitled mother. However, the mother and entitled mother did not go unscathed from the incident. Both the mother and the entitled mother were banned from being on school property for the rest of the school year, which is kinda sad. Bean had a play and she had to stand in the back of the field to watch it. Oh yeah, also the entitled kid stopped coming over, if you can believe it. Edit, thanks guys for the gold and the comments and the stories. I'll just clear things up that Bean just remembered, but please remember I'm not at all familiar with the legal system or how it works. I've only been involved with police once for a missing person, so nothing on assault. I was also confused by the fact that nothing happened when M got a summons, but we're assuming that the entitled mother dropped the charges after finding out legal fees or something. Or maybe she had a change of heart if possible. Nah. Bean also recalls his mother's mugshot getting taken, but we don't know when, before or after they showed up to their house. So the police do have the case on file, and she probably has a record for it, but I'm not sure. For those of you wondering what happened in the new school year when the ban was dropped, they are still living in the same house as before, down the street, and Bean moved to a new school because they didn't want to deal with the entitled mother now that she was back. He has a good story about a teacher there, which I will post, but I don't know what subreddit to put it in. Stay tuned. Alright, our second story is also by ExplodingShowtunes, titled, Entitled Mother Demands My Disabled Dad Moves His Car from the Street because her son likes to park in that spot. So my dad told me this story today that happened yesterday, and I thought you guys would enjoy it. Some backstory. Our neighbors across the street are not, well, neighborly, and odd. I've grown up with them, living there for most of my life, but I cannot distinguish who exactly lives there and who doesn't because they always have guests over and are not very distinguishable. I don't know if it's a cultural thing as to this, they're Indians I believe. I won't go into great detail, but a few examples I remember of this family is they were basically not at all concerned for their children if they ran out onto the street, which my parents witnessed them almost getting hit a few times. And they would also steal my basketballs or soccer balls when I was a kid and claim it to be theirs because it's now their property. They weirdly got the same dog as us because they said they liked how he had a puppy face, despite him being 10 years old, which isn't entitled, but I just thought I'd mention it since it's kind of funny. Anyway, the most annoying and entitled thing that bothers my parents is that they would refuse to use their own driveway to keep it open for guests, park on our side of the street, and sometimes borderline go on our driveway. They're unable to park on their side as it's a hazard, but it bothered my dad to no end that they had a perfectly good driveway and weren't using it most of the time. It was mostly annoying for years. I mean, they can park on their side, but they have a driveway. But this became a problem when we kids were old enough to drive and had cars of our own, and now have to park a good few meters down the street because that's how far they would take over our side. My dad also became disabled and now can't walk far, so having to park down the street was physically painful for him to walk back. Here we go. My dad figured out a system that we would park on our side of the street by our house when it was free, and if one of us were using that car, we would have to replace said car with another. This worked perfectly for a little bit, and then yesterday, while my dad was working in the garage, the neighbor, our entitled mother, who my dad has had many wonderful encounters with, comes over.
Excuse me?
Yeah?
Can you move your car?
She points at his car on the street.
Why? My son likes to park there, and he's coming home soon.
Well, why doesn't he park on your driveway?
He likes to park there.
It's in front of my house. Why doesn't he park down the street?
Why don't you?
Because it's my house and I'm disabled. I can't walk far.
You don't look disabled.
Get off my property. Your son's perfectly able to walk down this street.
Move your car. My son likes that spot.
I don't care. You have a spot on your driveway. Either make him park there or he can walk. The entitled mother just huffs, realizing she's not able to do anything about it, and goes back to her house. I'll update you folks if anything else happens. Jesus, can you imagine the nerve on some people? Anyway, our next story is from SymbaSweet, titled, Entitled Mum Stalks Me Through the Grocery Store for My Bag. So this happened a couple days ago, and the more I think about it, the more disturbed I get. For some backstory, I'm a huge musical theatre nerd, and a few years ago I got to see the Phantom of the Opera in Seattle. And as a souvenir, I bought a tote bag with the play's logo printed all over it that I'm still very fond of. Now, the show is playing in a theatre in my area, and there's been a lot of local buzz about it. I went to see it this weekend and decided to carry my Phantom tote for a while, since my love of the show has been bolstered, and the bag is a great conversation starter for other theatre nerds I may meet in public who recognize the show that my bag references. Now, let's set the stage. A couple of days ago I went to the grocery store near my apartment to stock up on some pretty standard foodstuffs. And when I walk in I saw a cashier I'm friendly with working the self-checkout kiosk, so I stopped to talk to him for a few minutes. My bag was hanging over my shoulder, within clear view of the doors. After a couple of minutes into my chat, I felt a tap on my shoulder, so I turned around to address whoever was trying to get my attention and found a relatively normal looking woman. Average size, normal clothing, normal hairstyle, nothing to indicate this woman was a Karen type in any way. She says to me,
"Is that the Phantom of the Opera on your bag?"
Me, being happy to chat about one of my favorite musicals, replies, "Yeah, do you like the show?"
"It's fine. I took my daughter last weekend to see it at
insert local theatre.
She loves musicals."
"Oh, me too. I thought it was a really great show. The cast did a really great job and..." She then cuts me off and goes, "Did you buy that bag there? I didn't see that bag at any of the booths." "Oh no, actually I got this in Seattle when I saw the show a few years ago."
"Oh, because there really weren't any souvenirs at the show my daughter liked. Whoa, she would love that bag."
And then she looks at me expectantly. I realize what she wants, and I say, "I'm sorry your daughter didn't find any keepsakes she wanted."
"She was so disappointed. She didn't have anything to remember the show by. She would love your bag. Love it."
"Well, I know I love this bag. I hope the next time your daughter sees the show, she finds a souvenir she likes." I'm pretty nervous at this point because I'm very non-confrontational, and I've read plenty on this subreddit to know the entitled parents like causing scenes. I gripped my bag very tightly, trying to hold it against my body with my elbow, and with both hands tightly on the straps. "I've got to go do my shopping now. Excuse me." To my pleasant surprise, she didn't say anything else, so I really thought I'd gotten away without any crazy happening. I grabbed a basket and went to the cereal aisle. As I'm putting Cheerios into the basket, the entitled mum also enters the aisle. She doesn't have a cart or a basket, and she doesn't try to approach me again. Instead, she just stares at me. I decided to try and ignore her and go about my business as usual, grabbing the things on my shopping list. Every aisle I go to, she follows me into. Every single one, just staring at me. I'm certain she was just waiting for me to let my guard down. I go through self-checkout and she hangs by the discount bread rack nearby, still watching. Knowing she's probably not going to give up, this is when I leave the store. I flag down my acquaintance working the self-checkout kiosk and tell him I'm pretty sure the entitled mother is going to follow me to my car. He's wary of her and walks me and my purchases out to the parking lot and doesn't leave until my bags are loaded and I'm in the car with my doors locked. I was still keeping an eye on the entitled mother, and sure enough, she left the store when I did, watching me as I got to my car. I saw her get into her own car, still watching me. My acquaintance, who walked me out, went back to the store, and I was left alone in my vehicle, caught in an awkward staring match with the entitled mother, who's also in her car. She didn't even try to hide the fact that she was watching me. It dawned on me that the entitled mother was likely to follow me home, so instead of taking my usual exit that would take me back to my apartment, I drove over to the exit that turned off onto the more major street. The entitled mother followed me like I expected. I sat there for a couple of minutes at least, waiting. See, there's an intersection at the corner of the grocery store with really long light times, so cars end up lining up a fair amount. I waited until the last possible second until that light turned green and unleashed a wave of cars, turning right just before they hit, leaving the entitled mother stranded to wait for them to pass if she wanted to follow me. I drove up the street and got onto the highway, then took the exit for the next neighborhood over, and took the back way to my apartment. My car's pretty noticeable. It's bright orange, and I didn't want to take any chances that the entitled mother may recognize my car by going back the way I came. It seems I successfully ditched her, because no one has come banging on my door demanding I give them my phantom tote. Needless to say, I will be leaving that bag at home from now on. TLDR, entitled mum stalked me through a grocery store and almost followed me home because I didn't want to give her my tote that she wanted for her daughter. Damn, SymbaSweet. I didn't think people like this actually existed. Lucky you survived and you're not dead. That wouldn't have been good. So, our next story is by the user literalsquare, titled,
"You won't give me a discount? I have AIDS."
I had the fortune of personally witnessing this several years ago, and it has never left me. I was shopping at an appliance store and waiting in line to be served at the counter. Entitled father, a very tall, fit-looking guy with a loud voice, says, "So, how long will it take for my refrigerator to ship?" Cashier replies,
"About 4 weeks.
"Your total is a generic refrigerator price that I don't specifically remember, sir. Here's your warranty and your receipt. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "That much? With a month shipping time? You didn't charge me for shipping, right?" Cashier replies back,
Yes sir. With your warranty, tax, and $30 shipping, that is the total price." That's insane! You people are insane! You're seriously gonna charge me $30 for a month of wait time of shipping?
Yes, sir, it's a typical delivery price, yes.
You are giving me attitude. You should give me a discount for having to deal with this. Ugh.
I can't do that, sir. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Where is your manager?
Yeah, for real, he said this. The manager, who was standing like 5 feet away the entire time and heard the whole thing, says,
"How can I help? Your worker is giving me attitude. I can't believe you hire people like this. I am clearly owed some sort of discount on my fridge." "Well, sir, I'm afraid we can't." "You can't what? Give proper customer service? I'm going to have to call your franchise office," once again slamming his fist on the counter quite loudly. "Call them if you like, sir, but you're making my employees feel unsafe, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store if—" "Oh, I'm unsafe now? Well, you're right, because I have AIDS."
The other customer's clearly paying attention now, and 12-ish-year-old daughter with him looking very embarrassed. And he keeps going, saying,
"And I can't believe you would discriminate against someone like me. Come on, daughter." And he storms out of the store, still banging his hands on that bloody counter.
He never did call any higher franchise or corporate office. He did get his refrigerator, and his family was able to enjoy it for a few years before he got a divorce and ended up losing the house along with all of its appliances. I know this because I am the daughter. And no, he does not have AIDS. What? What is this story? Thank you, Literal Square. What's going on? Oh my god. And our final story of today is titled, "Why do you, a health professional, not want to date my son?" Mobile, yada yada. English is my first language and all that. Okay, so I'm currently studying towards becoming a nurse, and I've been working on a ward that sees all kinds of patients. But the most common person we get are young men, or teens in their 20s. I'm still quite young and vaguely attractive, so I occasionally get attention from clients who don't always keep it professional. But for the most part, everyone is chill. But we know entitled parents have no chill, so here we go. Here's our cast and crew, boys and girls. Me, Meteor Explosion. EM, entitled mother. ES, entitled son. N, the best nurse and person in the industry. So, the entitled son, about 17 years old, was in PAC U, post-anesthetic care unit. When I started my shift, I and another nurse went to retrieve him, but he was still very groggy and honestly a little too touchy-feely. But I'd put it down to him being a half asleep and not being in his right mind. I come back later when he's fully awake and do OBS. The whole time I know he's flirting with me, but I gently rebuff him and keep things professional until the very end. The entitled son says to me, "Hey, so I'm thinking, when I'm out of here, do you want to go get a coffee sometime?" Thanks, but no thanks. I'm here doing my job and it's unprofessional to be involved with clients outside of their care." He seems to drop it with a little attitude, but I thought I got my point across. No more than 20 minutes later, the entitled mother storms up to the nurse's station, demanding to see whoever had interacted with the entitled son. And I say, "Hi, is everything okay with the entitled son? I can come with you to his room if you need to discuss his care." The entitled mom just says,
"Entitled son just told me how rudely you have treated him, and you should be reported for neglectful care."
I'm very taken aback and honestly, probably looking like a deer in the headlights and say, "I'm sorry?"
"How dare you tell my son he is ugly and doesn't have a chance in heck with you? You should have just said yes on the spot because he is so out of your league. You're not even that pretty, and you're fat, and I don't want him dating you anyway."
Excuse me? I would never say anything like that. All I said was,
"Nurse, what's going on?" This bimbo nurse was completely rude to my son, and I want her to apologize to him right now."
"I'm sure there's some miscommunication here. I can assign someone else to the entitled son right now." Some more conversation goes down, where the nurse manages to convince the entitled mother that the entitled son was exaggerating a tad, and that I would have stayed within my professional boundaries. She grumbles a lot, but takes what she can get. For the rest of the stay, however, I got death stares from the entitled mother, but nothing more than sheepish glances from the entitled son, because he knew he'd been called out on his BS. I just thank my lucky stars he never asked me for a bed bath. Ew. Anyway, thank you for sharing that one, Anon. Really appreciate it. And I'm gonna wrap the episode up here, guys. Really glad that you stuck around to the end. Sorry I had a 2-day hiatus there. I'm glad you're here with me now. Tell me what you think in the comments. Let's have a good chat about this one. I'll reply. And I want to see you guys in the next episode. I'm gonna start posting a lot more from now. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.